About a month ago, a trailer premiered for a movie that I hadn't heard of called Fackham Hall, a spoof of British period piece dramas that takes place in the 1930s, focusing on a family of aristocrats. Now, after seeing this trailer, I was quite eager to see the movie because so few comedies are made these days, and when somebody even attempts such a thing, they already have my attention. And when I saw the trailer itself, it looked like the movie had a interesting setup and a premise that could potentially be ripe for satire. And with a screenplay from comedian Jimmy Carr and his brother, and the Dawson brothers, I did have some expectations that if nothing else, this would be a pretty good movie. And as luck would have it, I actually managed to see an advanced screening of this movie, so I decided to post a review about it. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over the general plot without really going into full spoilers, and after that, I'll share my main thoughts with you, and then of course, follow it by my official score. And if you enjoy getting these type of early access reviews before anybody else, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, which is actually my second channel, one that I do more small indie movies that are not always pushed out on this platform, but at the same time still interest people, so I want to give them attention. Fackham Hall takes place in the 1930s, where there's a family called the Davenports, and they're aristocrats that live in this fancy manor called Fackham Hall, and due to some unfortunate circumstances, they have to find a way for their daughters to marry into the right family through a set-up marriage so that they could continue to hold on to the manor and continue to live the aristocratic lifestyle. And in that aspect, they're really relying on their daughter Rose to do the right thing. But one day, a likable pickpocket arrives at the manor and accidentally gets a job there. And while he's there, he forms a connection with Rose, which puts whatever set-up marriage her parents had in mind for her in jeopardy. As the movie progresses, you also have a murder mystery thing going on, and a few other twists and turns within the story, which, to be fair, are quite predictable. Not that it really matters, because ultimately, in its own satirical way, Fackham Hall manages to highlight a lot of absurdities with British aristocrats, especially in a time like the 1930s. And overall, I would say that when it comes to the satire, there are some good ideas here, several of which made me laugh, which is not a bad thing. Damien Lewis, in my opinion, gives a standout performance out of this cast, and I really feel like he understood the assignment of being in a drama on one hand, but also being aware that it's a type of satire, and I feel like he has the perfect balance for it. Tom Felton, known from the Harry Potter series, also does a pretty good job here, playing an annoying young aristocrat with rather solid comedic timing. I also like Jimmy Carr, who was playing a vicar, and his parts were so amusing that I wish we would have seen more of him in the movie. But with all the good things that I've just said, I will say this: while there are some decent jokes, and I found myself chuckling and smiling throughout the movie, it didn't feel like a full-on, full-scale comedy that just doesn't stop delivering the biggest jokes. Now, I'm aware that in interviews, Jimmy Carr has said that while conceiving this project, he envisioned it as Downton Abbey meets The Naked Gun and Monty Python, which generally sounds great to me. But much like the reboot of Naked Gun that we got earlier this year, while I think that his intention is in the right place, and there are a lot of jokes in the movie, it's just they're not all on the same level. For me, once in a while, I really legitimately laughed, but I wanted to laugh more, and I couldn't help but feel that if you would have given this same idea to, let's say, Monty Python in their prime, or the guys that did Naked Gun, Top Secret, Hot Shots, and Airplane in their prime, I think that they would have made a meal of it. And I suppose it means that sometimes you can try your best to emulate comedy geniuses, but you're never quite going to be able to be the same thing as them if you don't find your own path. Still, I don't regret watching this movie because I actually had a pleasant time, but it didn't leave this kind of huge impact on me, which is really a shame because I feel like all the pieces of the puzzle were here. And overall, I have to say that even though it was a satire, the production value and the way it's set up and the directing and acting are really solid. It just felt like at times, for lack of a better word, safe. Like in every scene, they probably could have dialed up the comedy to an absurd extent that's a lot more over the top and takes much bigger risks with the jokes, but ultimately, the humor isn't all that offensive or even outrageous. And maybe in a movie like this, it needs to be. Not to mention that some of these scenes were crafted so similarly to these type of British dramas like Downton Abbey and Grantchester and others, you almost didn't realize that there were jokes there, so maybe there was something that needed to be done to highlight that a bit more. But I can appreciate the real work that went into it, and the movie feels like the result of something a group of creatives got together and had fun doing, and as the viewer, I could at least feel some of that fun. So while I wouldn't say that this is the best comedy I've ever seen, and I don't think that it's better than the influences that inspired it, but at the same time, you could do worse than watching a movie like this, which is only about 90 minutes long and never outstays its welcome. Something that I would have done differently, though, is that I really wish I had drank a pint of Guinness before watching this movie, or a glass of whiskey, because I really think you need to be in that kind of mood. I also saw this early screening with an American audience that wasn't always receptive to the British humor, so it wasn't exactly like a full house with a warm audience either. In any case, if I had to give this movie a score, where anything below a 60 is considered a failing grade, I think I would give Fackham Hall a 70 out of 100. It's a perfectly fine, decent movie to watch, it's just not spectacular, and if you enjoy getting these type of exclusive, early access reviews from an honest, independent movie reviewer like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day!
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.